Welcome, everyone. Take your seat. Wow, that worked. Want to welcome everyone to the Bar Mitzvah celebration of Dor Tikvah and Wham. Wow. I want to thank everyone for participating, everyone coming. Wow. And special thank to our sponsors. Look at the board. Very nice. And we're really happy that we've come to this juncture in our future, in our world. It's a real big milestone. We got started slow and small, and look what we've done. Everyone can be very proud. Well, we've had the food and the drink, so we move on to the program. And there may be a little bit of drinking later. I don't know if the food will be left, but we'll see. I hope everyone enjoyed it. I want to thank my son for the wonderful cocktail, the Wham cocktail. Thank you, Sam. I don't know if anybody knows it, but Sam actually is a very good Torah reader. He had a double parsha at his Bar Mitzvah, and I'm going to count on you to do it again this year.
You gonna have a bartender or use the sun? Which one?
A little bit of both. I'd like to introduce the first three speakers that really are responsible for starting what we have now become Dor Tikvah, the West Ashley Minyan that was conceived by Randy Cohen, Michael Kirstein, and Jason Barrett, who had the vision that it was important for us to make sure that we had Orthodox Judaism west of the Ashley for people that did not want to either drive or live downtown. And it's made a complete difference in this community, and for that I'm very grateful. I'd like to introduce Michael Kirstein to start us off. Michael is also my vice president, so he keeps me in line. I'm not going to hold that there. Speak it. I don't think now that it's quiet, you can probably hear it. Go ahead.
Well, that's just in there.
Thank you, Mr. President, rabbis, special guests, congregants, sponsors, donors, friends. You know, a few days ago, my dear, dear friend, the lovely and talented Mr. Randy Cohen, was nice enough to share his speech for tonight. Well, I can talk a little louder. He was nice enough to share his speech with me a few days ago. And he will be up here next. Having not prepared a speech, I'm going to read Randy's speech now. And we'll see what he does next. That's fantastic. A very special rabbi a very long time ago told me that when you go fishing for an almain, you catch one. And I appreciate everybody being the almain of my prophet. That's very sweet. Matter of fact, here, everybody, gather together, smile. All right. Okay, now, what I want to do is I want to take just a few minutes and I want to shine some light on the genesis of the West Ashley Minyan. Our beloved Wham. It's the humble beginnings that I think is one of the most important parts of our story. So we can call this part of the program Before There Was a Minyan. Before there was a West Ashley Minyan, there was just a few unsuspecting Yidden, a few Jews, and a small kitchen table. It all started on Shabbos, as so many good things do. And God himself spoke to Nathan Kirstein. He said, Nasanata ben Tzvi Menachem, Nathan, do not leave your house on Shabbos. You have nowhere to go. Now that could have been Linda of blessed memory uttering this command. But either way, a higher power had spoken. And soon thereafter, Randy Cohen and Jason Barrett would join Nathan, and the three of them would gather together at Nathan's house. Not with grand plans, not to start a minyan or a shul, not to scout locations, not to fundraise for a Torah scroll. They didn't gather to hide out and avoid being productive. Hell, they do that during the week. They didn't need Shabbos for that. No, they met at Nathan's house, as Shlomo Carlebach would say, for precious, beautiful, and holy reasons. The three of them met at Nathan's house to study Torah. They had no intentions of being founders or future parents of a teenage shul. So let the record show that it was not a business meeting. There were no bylaws, no vision statements, no fundraising campaigns, just three Jews and a heartfelt desire, and perhaps a lot of herring. But you know how it goes, right? You plant a seed and then it grows. That's just how Judaism works. You know, often you hear people quote from the Talmud or Pirkei Avot at special occasions like this to gain some real insight. I mean, it's the right thing to do. It's a great idea. I, on the other hand, am much more well-versed in what Pirkei Avot and the Talmud does not say. I have spent many waking moments not studying the Torah. Apologies. But I am fairly certain that nowhere does it say that one who studies Torah for its own sake will found a shul or a minyan. But here we are. Abraham and Sarah, they opened their tent. They made a space, and without even trying, they created something that began to draw others in. One Shabbos became two. And three chairs around that kitchen table, it became 10. Suddenly, someone was making tuna and egg salad for a crowd on a regular basis. Someone else whispered, "Do we have a Torah?" Then someone asked, who was laning or leading Musaf? Who's assembling a mechitza? Is it going to be too tall? Is it going to be too short? Who's setting up? Who's cleaning up? Right? These are what you would call first minyan problems. Our minyan became a team sport. Everybody played. So yes, this wasn't the plan. It was just three Jews sitting around a kitchen table. But isn't that how all good Jewish stories start, right? Three Jews eating. Not with the strategy, but with sincerity. Not with structure, but with soul. Not with labor, but with lay people and love. Not with a mission statement, but with Sfarim, with books of Torah. Like the best things in life, cholent and children and surprise aliyot and l'chaim with a visitor after Kiddush. The West Ashley Minyan was unplanned. It was an unsuspecting seed planted in Torah, watered with friendships, and fertilized with a hell of a lot of egg salad and tuna. One Shabbos became two. Someone brought a siddur, someone else brought a friend. Eventually, we had just enough Jews to form an argument. But we argued for the sake of heaven. We welcomed babies, we've mourned losses, we've danced, we've prayed, we've eaten our fair share, and all the while we have remained rooted in the spirit of that very first Shabbos gathering at Nathan's home. Authentic, heartfelt, and humbly sacred. Today we honor a real milestone, but we also honor the precious, beautiful, and holy moments before the West Ashley Minyan, before Dor Tikvah. The lesson is simple here, and it's not if you build it, they will come. That's a great message, but that's not the message. The message is you don't need a plan. You just need a few Yidden and a little Taiva, right? A few Jews and a Torah. Today we celebrate a Bar Mitzvah, not of a person, but of a people, of a home, but not of bricks, of blessings, a community that didn't start with a mission statement, but an unconscious mission that something holy was afoot, even before we knew what to call it. Randy, Jason, Nathan, and all those in your wake of Torah that helped those unsuspecting seeds grow, thank you for always saying yes My grandfather would always say, L'chaim tovim u'l'shalom, to a good life and to peace. Randy Cohen, the lovely and talented Randy Cohen, please.
I recently saw a movie, Speed, playing on TV. I couldn't help but think about tonight when one of the movie stars said to the other, relationships that start under intense circumstances, they never last. So some would hear that, and knowing our history, you might worry. Don't worry. Then I went on thinking and still putting off writing something to say for tonight. Then I remembered the West Ashley Minyan Havdalah set. I understand that all of its parts are not, from the initial years, are still not in use, all of them, but the engraving was much more appropriate than the movie line. From Pirkei Avos, chapter 4, Mishnah 14, Rabbi Yochanan Hassan Leromer, Kol Kenesia Shehi L'Shem Shemayim Sofa Lehis Kayem, V'She'ena L'Shem Shemayim Ein Sofa Lehis Kayem. Rabbi Yochanan Hassan would say, every gathering that is for the sake of heaven will endure. That is not for the sake of heaven will not endure. That was as true nearly 2,000 years ago as it was 13 years ago, as it is today. This is what you, Congregation Dor Tikvah, and the West Ashley Minyan before it, show through and through every day. When the steering committee for this event began, they spoke about the history of the West Ashley Minyan, the founding of Congregation Dor Tikvah, and the success that you've seen. As most of you know, my sense of direction is not so good. So I hear this word often in the GPS, recalculating. So I set about to recalculate the course, at least of these words tonight. While we're gathered here tonight to celebrate the 13th year and the anniversary of this congregation, I would like to take a moment to look ahead to the future. I want to touch on a few items of the special sauce that I think that exists here. One Shabbos morning, I recall it vividly, along with Michael Stricker, I was walking back from shul to Ashley Harbor. Now, I'm sure it was about 1,000 degrees and we were melting into the pavement at the time, but Michael and I were speaking of the beautiful nature of our minyan. He said a phrase that I will not forget. Michael said to me that many shuls and other Jewish organizations, they speak of that ladder of growth. You all know the image, we're growing and climbing the ladder. Michael said to me, that's not our shul. This explanation does not accurately explain the caring and nurturing that happens here. He said there's still a ladder, but on that ladder, there's no one climbing up without looking back behind them and lending a hand, a caring hand, to someone on that step below them. Everyone at the West Ashley Minyan, now Congregation Dor Tikvah, is certainly no different. Everyone is looking to help anyone and everyone achieve whatever growth path they're on. And I want you to think about that. And I think you'll agree, it's as rare as it is true. And that is part of the special sauce. Then as the last few parshiot came and went, once again, we came to a place that screamed to me, this is Dor Tikvah and this is the special sauce. This past week we read Achrei Mos and Kadoshim. I heard and read so many things that were once again the secret sauce. In reading a piece from Rabbi Doron Perez, the executive chairman of World Mizrahi, he spoke about how Ramban mentions that it is clearly possible to follow all of the detailed laws of the Torah, yet at the same time miss out on the Torah's very essence. Again, a secret sauce of this congregation. In the early days, a common refrain was below the radar and above reproach. This is a big part of what this group stood for. In the second of last week's Parshiot, Kedoshim, Hashem spoke to Moshe and he said, speak to the children of Israel and say to them, you must be holy since I am God, your Lord, and I am holy. He then later said, you must do that which is right and good in the sight of the Lord. Again, Ramban states that this was not to imply that the Torah mentions all of the halachic details. We know that it does not. We know that even in the details, there are ways to find the loopholes. There are plenty of practices that we all can identify that are within the letter of the law, yet clearly not in the spirit of the law. Yes, we should all strive to hold to Torah law, the details of halacha. At the same time, this observance, says Rabbi Perez, should always be inspired and guided by its spirit and that is Congregation Dor Tikvah. I recall at one of the most beautiful life cycle events held here, the B'nai Mitzvah of Alan and Rachel Rosenberg. Now, this may have slipped your mind. It didn't slip mine, but I will say I remember this, not perfectly, so you may correct me later. Alan either sang or he chanted. He may have just spoken about it, but whatever it is, and you'll correct me, I'm sure. One of my favorite Talmudic passages in our Shabbos davening, the one right before Aleinu at the end of davening, there's a passage from Brachos 64a that says, all of your children will be students of Hashem, and your children will have peace. Do not read Banaich, your children, but Bonaich, your builders. This is what you, Congregation Dor Tikvah, have been and will, with God's help, continue to be, the builders. And of course, look what you have built. The history of the West Ashley Minyan and this amazing Congregation Dor Tikvah is a great story. But as I recalculated before, what this congregation really stands for, and the secret sauce that makes it great, and what this cornerstone of Torah Judaism does for Charleston and everyone who's been lucky enough to feel the warmth, this is no less than the energy source for the growth of our community, our children, our families, and our friends. What you do here, you are providing a place for all of us to grow, to pray, and to share, and to be the builders. People ask me all the time about the Charleston Jewish community. We all know the question, are there really Jews in Charleston? The answer, of course, is yes. It's not only one of the oldest Jewish communities in the United States, but with God's help and with the strength of this congregation, it will be for ages to come. Finally, there was a visitor once to our little minyan, and when he left, he told me he's going to pray for us. And with that, I want to share with you his prayer, the very prayer that we say every Shabbos right before we begin Musaf and put the Torah away. He who blessed our forefathers Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless this entire holy congregation, along with all the holy congregations, them, their wives, sons and daughters, and all that is theirs, and those who dedicate synagogues for prayer, and those who enter them to pray, and those who give lamps for illumination and wine for Kiddush and Havdalah, bread for guests and charity for the poor, and all who are involved faithfully in the needs of the community. May the Holy One, blessed is He, pay their reward and remove from them every affliction, heal their entire body and forgive their every iniquity, and send blessing and success to all their handiwork, along with all of Israel, their brethren, and let us say, Amen. May this 13th anniversary be just the beginning, and may all that this congregation does be a blessing to us all. Now we'll go to Jason Baran on the Zoom.
So can you hear me? Yeah?
Yeah, we got you.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this is not the way I would have liked to have been there, but here I am, calling from Atlanta. I would have loved to have been there in person. I will be there next month. I know that's not this celebration. This is a big mazel tov for the community as a whole, and certainly for Dor Tikvah. It's hard for me to follow in the words of Michael and Randy. Michael, that was amazing. Randy, fantastic. And it's also hard for y'all to sit there and pay attention to a small computer screen up at the front of the shul. So I'll make it brief. I was reflecting also on, to use Randy's words, what the secret sauce is of this congregation. And Michael delivered perfectly the early days of our minyan. I couldn't have done it better. But as it grew, and as we moved from Randy's living room to the JCC, and as our numbers swelled, we really found ourselves fulfilling a need of the community that we felt important. Now, one of the things that I have a memory of the minyan is the fact that what we were doing was about not compromising, was about doing what's right and what the Torah asks us to do. The Torah does not ask us to sit still. The Torah asks us to grow. And West Ashley Minyan and Dor Tikvah are the results and the breeding ground for that growth. If we're not moving forward, we're going backwards. There is no standing still. What this minyan is built on and continues to be built on in many ways is sweat equity. The importance of all hands on deck, of everyone being involved and everyone having a place. What I would say to everyone here is to be part of something like this from the beginning through now brings an incredible amount of satisfaction as well as personal growth and Yiddishkeit. For those of you who continue after all these years to roll up your sleeves every week and make sure that Dor Tikvah is the special place and remains the special place that it is, Mazel Tov. For those of you who aren't so much participating in that way, now's the time to roll up your sleeves. Now's the time to help things move into the next period of this great minyan's history. Thank you and Mazel Tov. It is a pleasure.
Wow. Well, you can surely see the deep roots that this minyan has, and it's no doubt, and there shouldn't be any doubt of the success that we've had based on the beginnings, the humble beginnings of these minyan. Just incredible. Thanks, Michael, Randy, and Jason for sharing those thoughts. It means a lot. Now I'd like to introduce the first rabbi of this minyan, Rabbi Davies. Please come forward.
Hi, everyone. So wonderful to see each and every one of you. On behalf of Or and myself, really warms our hearts to be able to be with you here today. Returning to beginnings, to a place where we had the privilege of starting something special with you. Or and I and Yoshua and Chana arrived in Charleston almost 12 years ago now to take the position here at Congregation Dor Tikvah. And we were blessed to grow as a family as we grew together as a community. And here we are celebrating a Bar Mitzvah. 13 years of growth, of learning and community building. And it's a privilege for us to be able to be here to celebrate and witness this milestone with all. So I was going to take Randy's speech, but Michael already took it. Michael, I remember you used to read Rabbi Sittner's speeches, right? So that's like a usual thing for you. Okay. So I figured I'd go back to one of my first drushot. I wanted to go back to the first Shabbat that we were here, but I think that was Levi Shane's Bar Mitzvah. So he spoke, not me. So I'll go to the second Shabbat. It was Shabbat Parsha Ki Tavo, and the message that I shared then resonates still very strongly to this day. In Parsha Kitavo, we find a commandment. There's a commandment of that particular moment in time to set up stones with the Torah written upon them when crossing over the Jordan River. Moshe instructs the people to cover these inscribed stones with lime or plaster, which is kind of interesting because why write something down if you then just cover it up? I understand some people were covering some things up with plaster on the roof the other day. The section of that text begins with the phrase, Shamor et kol ha-mitzvah, that we need to guard, we need to keep all of the commandments. Seemingly out of place instruction might actually be the key to understanding the entire section. And the message that comes from this, which I found meaningful then and still do today, is that a physical structure, no matter how impressive and how beautiful, finds its true purpose through the community which it serves. The preservation of our Masorah, our Jewish heritage, depends not just on buildings or inscriptions, but on the ongoing commitment of each generation to engage with our tradition in a meaningful way. As Rav Eli Monk suggests in his work, The Call of the Torah, which I was introduced to actually by Jason Daniels, Judaism survives not through monuments, but through the power of community and tradition passed from person to person, and more deeply from heart to heart. Each person finding their own path and connection. So when I arrived at Dor Tikvah, we were meeting in this space, but not quite in this space, in the multi-purpose room of the JCC. I still remember each week after Shabbos, together we would carefully pack away all the shul furniture into storage closets. If I mention front, flat, back, ring a bell, anybody? Those early days embodied a spirit of commitment that has defined this shul from its very beginning. And I noticed and mentioned on that Shabbat two remarkable strengths of the community already from then. First of all, as was mentioned already, you were volunteer-led for years before I even arrived. But Peter, we were keeping the count, what was it, 6 years before, right? Establishing a foundation of shared responsibility. And second, the size of the congregation meant that every single person truly matters. Everyone has a part to play in building of this community. And what I said then was that the rabbi cannot do it alone. I may be preaching to the choir, but the choir has to sing. We're all in this together, carrying on the legacy of our Masorah, of our Jewish tradition, and the mission of our community. And looking at what we've accomplished, what you've accomplished over these past 13 years, I can see that you've been singing. You've been singing loud and beautifully. And from those humble beginnings in a shared space, we've transformed this building into a true Makom Kadosh, a holy space. I was fortunate, I'm not going to steal Jonathan's thunder, but I was fortunate, really privileged to be involved in helping to design this space. And so therefore I am a little biased, but I do think, as I've said before, that the Dor Tikvah Sanctuary is one of the finest in the country. I've been to a few more since then, so. And now, completing construction of a new mikvah. It's unbelievable. Continuing to build and to grow. Remarkable growth. So as I come to each bar mitzvah, I say, the essence of becoming a bar mitzvah represents a journey towards a greater responsibility, finding one's place in the Jewish community. When a shul, when a congregation reaches maturity, when its members collectively embrace the responsibility of sustaining Jewish life and values, So as we celebrate Congregation Dor Tikvah's Bar Mitzvah today, I see a community that has truly embodied its name, Dor Tikvah, a generation of hope. The founders of the West Ashley Minyan Congregation Dor Tikvah, a few of who have spoken, some are sitting in the room, and some who are not here with us today, have planted seeds. But it's all of the people here and so many more who have nurtured those seeds into the flourishing community that we see today, each contributing in a special and meaningful way. And now you enter into a next phase of the communal journey. And I want to take a moment to express my admiration for my successor, Rabbi Mimran. It brings me great joy to see the work, the efforts that he's putting in, building on foundations that we've established, taking Dor Tikvah to new heights. Establishing daily minyan, something we used to talk about, dream about, expanding Torah learning opportunities and initiatives, and building on the infrastructure as well. So wonderful to see that Rabbi Shalom, Zahav, and their family have become integral parts of this community, and their integration speaks volumes about both the warmth of Dor Tikvah and the genuine nature of their leadership. So remember that the strength of Dor Tikvah has always been each and every one of you. It's been the people. The structures we build, the renovations we complete, and even, yes, even the sermons we preach are meaningful, very much so, but only to the extent that they inspire us in action and commitment. My bracha for this evening. May Hashem bless this wonderful congregation with many more years of growth and of learning. May you continue to build not just beautiful physical spaces, but a community that welcomes all who seek to connect with their Jewish heritage, each in their own way and each at their own pace. And may we all merit to see this Dor Tikvah, generation of hope, continue to bring light and meaning to Charleston and beyond until the coming of Mashiach, speedily in our days. Mazel tov.
Thank you, Rabbi. Wow. You know, 13 years old, we have a bar mitzvah, but I think everyone in here that's had 13-year-old kids and those who haven't realize that a 13-year-old really is not an adult male quite yet. And we are very fortunate to have a new rabbi, fairly new, that is going to take this young bar mitzvah buffer into young adulthood and beyond. I'd like to introduce Rabbi Mimran. His name is Shalom Mimran, and I didn't want to confuse anybody and say Shalom and have him read.
Thank you, Ben. I feel like I maybe should take another photo, see if anybody left before my speech. I don't hold grudges or anything. I may need to compare. So I was asked to reflect on the future. And to that effect, I think I want to mention a fascinating thing that happened in regards to the mikveh project, literally yesterday. Very briefly, you know, when we started collecting and fundraising for the mikveh, David and I, went to visit someone, and we had to basically explain what the project was about. So, we went in and I said, we're running a campaign for the mikveh. And the individual said, "What is that?" I said, well, that's when you raise a lot of money, but that's not important right now. And then I explained what the mikvah is about. You know, it's a pool, and we dig a thing, and we fill it with water. He said, that's great. I'll be more than happy to help. He heads into the kitchen. He comes out with a bucket of water. He says, it's been an honor to take part in this project. But honestly, I did want to share an amazing thing that happened just yesterday. So yesterday, of all days, this wasn't scheduled to be the day before this celebration, but yesterday of all days, Mikvah USA sent a Rabbi Chaim Eichenstein, his name was, to check if we can start collecting rainwater. And if you're familiar with mikvahs, the most important part of a mikvah is the rainwater, and it's also the most unpredictable and hardest part of the construction. So he comes, and sure enough, he finds some issues. I lost a suit over this as we ended up on the roof. That was entirely my fault. But we were patching up essentially writing that was found, which could be constituted as a vessel. So therefore, any water that runs over it may have been in a vessel. And he saw this issue and he said, unfortunately, you're not going to be able to start collecting rainwater right now. And this was disappointing. And he headed back to the airport. Now, thanks to Carl, he's in the back over there, and his amazing speedy work on the roof, he was able to fix the issue very, very quickly, to the point where I also found out, by coincidence again, that the rabbi's flight was delayed. We got him to come back to the mikvah, jump on the roof once again, and he checked it. And at 6 p.m. last night, we blocked up the old drain, and we were able to open up, and I'm delighted to announce that we're now able to collect rainwater. The pipes are open. I want to tell you another, again, coincidence. It was supposed to rain yesterday. I don't know if you kept track. It was even thundering. Now, rain, Carl knows, would very much have hampered what we were trying to do on the roof. So despite the fact that it thundered, and that was the weather forecast, there was not a drop of, maybe there was 1, 2 drops, but it didn't rain yesterday. So we were very grateful for that. And here's the kicker. I knew that we began this project, many months ago. And this afternoon I decided to check, when was it that we had our major mikvah foundation event that most of you will remember? We poured the concrete, we began the project. And that was on Wednesday, May 15, 2024. And here we are. This was not scheduled. This could have happened any day. This literally found out today. Here we are, May 15, 2025, celebrating the future, the past, the present of Dor Tikvah, and the fact that we've just began to make our mikvah operational. And yes, we do need a lot of water, somewhere between 1,300 and 1,500 gallons of water. However, we do have a huge roof. It's more than 1,500 square feet. So in case you want to keep track of how much it rains, we only need somewhere between 1.5 inches and 2 inches of rain. And then, God willing, the pools will be full. But I did want to finish with one very brief idea from this week's Torah portion from Emmer. The Torah tells us, commands the Kohanim, it commands the nation, Kedoshim Tiyu, to be holy, and then V'lo yachalalu, not to profane God's name. Now, there's a big obvious question, because it says, be holy and don't profane. Well, what happens if I'm in the middle? I'm not necessarily super holy, but I don't do anything to profane God's name. Can I not be just somewhere in the middle? Why do I have to pick a side? And to that effect, they bring a beautiful parable to explain. And when I came to America, I decided to have to learn the sports over here. So I decided to get into baseball, but I didn't just want to watch the highlights. I decided I want to watch a replay of a full game. So I'm excited to announce in about a month or so, I'm going to finish watching that game. And what you know from baseball is that when you have a team that's choosing players, in particular the manager, and he's deciding who's going to be batting, who's going to be signed up for the team. They pay good money for the players that have a tremendous potential. And if any players are subpar, even if they're just mediocre, if they're not performing highly, then who takes the blame? The manager. Why? The answer is because if the team plays badly, then the manager looks bad. He is the one that takes the blame. He's the one that seems to be mediocre. So none of the players could be like, maybe I'm not making your name holy. Maybe I'm not playing so amazing for this team, but I'm not playing terrible. That's not good enough. in professional sports. That's not good enough when you're at the top of the game. And it's the same in Judaism, and I think this has been personified and exemplified by this community. That when you have a community that all as a team play together to get to where we are today, and as a team was able to be holy and to play for the manager and not say, who am I? I don't need to volunteer, or, I'm just one member. And one of the beauties of this community, many visitors come and they all tell me how they see the warmth and how everybody belongs and each individual has their place and adds their spice and their character to this beautiful community. And we've heard about some of it today. It's because they understand this element of Kadoshim to you, to be holy, to be standout, not just to be ordinary, not just to let the hamster wheel go around, not just to let it go as usual, because we understand that it's either to be great or, God forbid, the other way around. So that's why I am so excited. I'm so pleased. And I'm only been here for 3 years, but it's been a complete honor and a privilege to take over from Rabbi Davies and to come on the heels of the many that have put so much into this community to make it into what it is today. And God willing, the community will continue to prosper and to grow for many, many years to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rabbi. I am, I believe, the 5th president of Dor Tikvah, and I would just like to take this opportunity to thank the previous presidents. Our first president, Mr. Jonathan Zucker, our second president, David Rosenberg, our third president, Slade Gleaton, our fourth president, Stuart Feldman, that have all laid the groundwork to make my job just a little bit easier. I'd like to introduce our first president to share some words about a little bit of past, a little bit of present, a little bit of future. Jonathan Zucker.
Thank you, Ben. I haven't been this nervous since my Bar Mitzvah, so it's impossible to follow these great speakers, especially my rabbis. But good evening, everyone. On behalf of myself and of this entire congregation, I want to begin by expressing my deep gratitude to our spiritual leaders, Rabbi Davies, Rabbi Mimran, and to other rabbis. I know Rabbi Refson was in the room, to the other rabbis who've helped in our community and in supporting our work, whether publicly or quietly, or just supporting the growth of the Jewish community here. Thank you to our founders, to our past presidents, as you mentioned, to our board members, our committee members, all of our tireless and big-hearted volunteers, to our generous donors, without whom none of this would be possible. Thank you all for investing in both the past and the very promising future of this extraordinary community. Tonight I have the honor of sharing a bit about the thought, care, and effort that went into reimagining and rehabilitating our sanctuary. It's a sacred space that's not only beautiful and modern, but also deeply intentional and uniquely ours. We were blessed to partner with Reggie Gibson and Alicia Reed of Reggie Gibson Architects, who brought artistry, sensitivity, and tireless dedication to the project. They researched and designed and refined the vision with incredible attention to detail, integrating both tradition and innovation, and welcoming our extensive feedback along the way. They worked hand in hand with our phenomenal construction team from Southeastern Construction, led by David Willis and Carl, I'm going to butcher your last name, Kubernis, is that right? Kubernis, sorry. Carl in the back, very critical part to making this and a mikveh happen, really to bring the vision to life. Together, they ensured that every detail aligned with our hopes and our expectations, and the results speak for themselves. Wait till you see the mikveh. You may or may not have noticed, but there are many meaningful themes woven into the design of our sanctuary, and I didn't know we were going to be sitting here, so it helps that you have the visual reference. The first and perhaps the most central, although hardest to notice right now because it's dark outside, is the theme of divine light. In Bereshit, the Torah tells us, Vayomer Elokim, Yehi Or, Vayehi Or. And God said, let there be light, and there was light. Light's one of the first acts of creation. And in Jewish thought, it symbolizes order, clarity, goodness, the divine spark that illuminates the world and each of our souls. That sacred light enters our sanctuary and our community in several intentional ways, most prominently through the skylight above the shulchan, bringing natural light directly to the heart of our Torah reading, through the 12 glass brick windows in the front wall, symbolizing the 12 tribes of Bnei Israel, and through the marble tile wall behind the section over here, designed to maximize daylight and enhance the spiritual atmosphere for prayer, study, reflection, and connection. Above the Aron, we chose to inscribe not one of the more traditional verses like Da lifnei mi atam omed, know before who you stand, Shivti Hashem lenegdi tamid, I have set the Lord always before me, or those of the Shema. Some of you have seen that in front on top of the Aron. But something that felt uniquely suited to our community. V'ha'arev na et divrei Torahcha b'finu. Please, God, sweeten the words of your Torah in our mouths. This line from our daily morning prayers reflects our aspiration to make Torah not only a source of knowledge, but of joy, to ensure that its sweetness is felt by all and passed lovingly to future generations. We also wanted to honor and strengthen our connection to Israel. That's why all of our sanctuary furniture, including the pews, was custom built at Kibbutz Lavi in Israel. It was a significant investment of time, energy, and resources, and a meaningful way to support Israel's people and economy while grounding our sanctuary in our homeland's spirit. The shape of the room itself is intentionally reminiscent of an embrace. I don't know if you can see the hug here. If you look at the ceiling, it's a symbolic expression of Hashem's eternal love and of the open-hearted, welcoming nature of our Dor Tikvah community. Equal thought was given to inclusivity within halachic boundaries. Great care was taken to ensure that both the men and the women have equally meaningful, inspiring experiences within the space, spiritually, communally, and ritually. And finally, our mechitza, which often risks becoming a barrier, was designed to offer something much more nuanced. Its etched wave pattern provides a choice. Closer to the bima, the wave is lower, and further back it rises, allowing individuals to engage with prayer in the way that feels most spiritually focused and personally appropriate. These are just a few of the design elements that make our sanctuary not only beautiful, but holy. A space where we can lift our voices and our hearts to Hashem, and where, with God's help, future generations will do the same. Because this is more than a building, it's a reflection of who we are, a Dor Tikvah, a generation of hope. Hope rooted in tradition, illuminated by learning, elevated through prayer, and built to embrace generations yet to come. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be involved in the most important life-changing work that I've done, for celebrating this milestone with us, and for being part of this sacred journey to sustain and strengthen the Jewish future. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. We're very fortunate, and it's really amazing that as young as we are, we have lost some founding members, some founding participants of Dor Tikvah. These are members that came from other synagogues, perhaps, Charleston, that made decisions that weren't necessarily popular at the time, but that they felt were important for the future of Orthodoxy west of the Ashley, the community in Charleston at large. I'd like to read the names of these individuals. We're very lucky, and we should be blessed by their vision and their support in everything we do going forward. Mr. Jerry Zucker, blessed memory. Miss Janet Gilston, Rose Goldberg, Sharon Stricker, Sammy Kirstein, Linda Kirstein, Sandy Cates, Philip Chase, Harold Fox, Yanni and Sandra Schwartz, and Neil Weintraub. When I look at these names and I think about sitting in synagogue with them, we were a young synagogue, and these gentlemen and women were aging a little, and now I feel like I'm one of the older people. It's nice to see some young people around. I've never really felt that before. I think tonight might be that turning point. I think that really that I'm just so basically impressed and humbled by what's been done here. The support of the Zucker family, the support of the Gilston families, the support we've got now, the Glaback families with the mikveh, and everyone who's done everything, whether it's little, big, and I will stress again, just like the earlier gentleman spoke about, we did this for the right reasons. And I believe that for the right reasons, we will continue for a very long time and make our mark in Charleston. Thank you very much for coming. We are going to have tours of the mikveh. Do not miss seeing the mikveh tonight. Hopefully we'll have an orderly line going through. Very impressive, very important as another leg of the stool of bringing Yiddishkeit and halacha to the Charleston community. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you everybody for being here. The program has concluded. We are so grateful to our sponsors of tonight who are listed outside. Also to all the Life and Legacy donors. It's a lengthy list. We were going to release this after this event. Please thank them for that and contemplate it yourself. Thank you very much. Mariv will be in the chapel. Tours will be available from now of the mikveh. Thank you. Good night.